Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan's here today. Real quick, before we get to Adam, due to the weather tonight, the Phillies and Padres have been postponed. It will be made up tomorrow as part of a day-night doubleheader. It will be, tickets for tonight's game will be valid for the newly scheduled game at 6:15. Apparently, there was supposed to be fireworks tonight. They will now take place after the game. For fans who purchase tickets and parking directly from the Phillies, they will be admitted to the makeup game tomorrow night. So, if you had tickets for the original game at 1 o'clock, you have tickets for that game. And if you have tickets for the game today, they will be for the game tomorrow night. So, 105, 6:15. That is the day-night doubleheader. We will be at Yuri's tomorrow for a Phillies watch party. We still get day baseball, but now you can hang around and watch both games if you like. Adam Caplan's here with today's Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. All right, Adam, a little rain, I guess, up in the Philly area. Not down here quite yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, look, well, right over the bridge, man. I'm glad they do this now. One of the worst things, I don't know if you've ever had this happen, where, okay, so you're going to the park, you're going to CBP, and they don't cancel until you get there. It's like the worst thing ever. It's kind of like getting your flight canceled at the last minute when you get to the airport. You're like, well, why could you cancel it earlier if you knew the weather was bad?
Yep.
So there's not going to be a break in the weather. So yeah, and I've done the day-night doubleheaders before. This is when I was a diehard. Like, this is going back probably when I was in high school or my early 20s. Those are a tough deal, man, because if you don't live close to this is back with the vet. But if you don't live close, Mike, it's a little bit more of a challenge to come back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and people from down here, too. If you're coming from down here, you don't know. You drive up there, you're kind of stuck in the middle. So no Phils tonight, but we got some football for you today. And we got some football news today. The Steelers, they make a big trade today. They get, yesterday, Jalen Ramsey gets traded with Jonnu Smith, the tight end. They end up getting Minkah Fitzpatrick back in this deal. Steelers are making all sorts of moves here. So why do the Steelers make this deal?
All right, so a couple things here. First of all, Jonnu Smith is from Philadelphia, by the way. He's an interesting player, Mike. He's what we call a two-way tight end. He could block, he could run, kind of like Dallas Goedert. He signed a mega contract back in 2021 with the Patriots because he was with the Titans then, and he was one of the better young tight ends in the league. And unfortunately, Smith didn't play well for the Patriots. They got rid of him after 2 years. He goes to Atlanta, revives his career under Arthur Smith, who he played for with the Titans when Smith was their offense coordinator. And he played for Arthur when Arthur was the play caller and head coach of the Falcons. And then he takes this game to another level. It was really good with Miami, but he wants one more deal. He wanted one more mega deal. He didn't get it. And Miami was okay with him making over $4 million, but they were not going to extend his contract. So they traded him to Pittsburgh. Now, I know, Mike, it's really odd. Like, when you look at some of these moves, you go, wait a minute. They're paying, the Steelers are paying Pat Freiermuth over $12 million, and they already signed Darius Slay for $10 million and have Joey Porter Jr. at corner. So what are they doing? Well, a couple things here, Mike. They're what we call a heavy 12 personnel team. They play a lot of two tight ends. And Arthur Smith, again, does know Jonnu Smith because he's coached him at two different spots. And they're not very deep at receiver, so I could certainly understand this. This makes a lot of sense. Now, how are they going to make the Jalen Ramsey thing work? Well, you have to look at something here. Darius Slay is 34. He's the oldest starting corner in the National Football League. Jalen Ramsey signed for 4 more seasons, so as long as he plays well, he'll be there a long time. And they'll make it work, Mike. There's nothing wrong with being very deep at corner, and Jalen Ramsey's going to make just under $20 million from the Steelers this season, so he'll be playing every down if he's healthy, just about, or most downs. So the bottom line is, Mike, they're going to make it work, and to make the money work, because they took in a lot of cash, they had to move somebody. They got to clear up some cash, so they cleared up Minkah Fitzpatrick, who, Mike, see, this is the thing. This is like if you just ask a lot of fans who don't follow the Steelers, oh, Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's a great player. Well, he didn't really make a lot of plays on the ball. It's not just that he only had one interception and low pass defense. He just didn't make any plays. His tape wasn't very good. So I mean, he's a fine player, but he's not special anymore. And he goes back, as you said, back to where he was a first-round pick. It's very bizarre. This is just a weird deal. So he goes back, and then the trade that went down today, the Dolphins, because they traded Jonnu Smith, they needed to get a tight end. So Darren Waller came out of retirement, who looked very good for a short period of time with the Giants, and the hamstring problem got him again, and he retired. He's coming out of retirement. I'm told one of the reasons why, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why he is coming out of retirement, because he's close with Frank Smith, another Smith. He's the offensive coordinator for the Dolphins. The two know each other from a previous stop, so that they're very close. So that has something to do with it. But Darren Waller, Mike, has overcome a lot in his career with substance abuse. He got over that issue. He was a former receiver, if you remember. With the Ravens, they moved him to tight end, and he really blew it up with the Raiders, and it unfortunately hamstring injuries got him, but he's coming out of retirement. The Dolphins are a team, if you're a Dolphin fan, I know the Dolphins have a pretty good national following. Like, on one hand, you see the Steelers who are going for it. They clearly Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf trade. Then you're the Dolphins, Mike. People are like, what are they trying to do? They're a team that, I've used this term, they're stuck in neutral. They're stuck in the middle. They just don't know who they want to be.
Yeah, that's for sure. The Dolphins perpetually, haven't been really good since Dan Marino left town. The Dolphins, when was the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game? My gosh, it seems like they have been kind of, as you just said, stuck in neutral there. Real quick, we've been talking Steelers there. Do you envision that T.J. Watt is playing for somebody else?
Let me address it. So I did a cool piece for Inside the Birds today. It's on Pod or YouTube. So I did like a 30-minute video on both teams, the Dolphins and a little bit on the Giants, but Dolphins because of the Waller trade, Dolphins and Steelers stuff. But with T.J. Watt, my understanding is they would like to extend his contract. Like, they definitely want him to end his career with the Steelers. They want to keep him, the Steelers do. And we have to remember, Mike, the T.J. Watt extension that happened 3 years ago, people were worried about it. It didn't get done until September 10th, right around when the start of the season happened. So, look, they have time. Now, he already showed that he's not happy, and he missed their mandatory camp. That shows that he's serious. And he had a hold-in the last time, more or less. So you could see that happening. Now, why would you trade him? Well, he does turn 31 this fall. He's had some injuries in his career. You have to be careful, Mike, and particularly this sport. He's not a quarterback who could play to his late 30s, early 40s. He's an edge rusher. These guys usually kind of lose it around 33 years old, 34 when they're done. It's highly the Brandon Graham situation, 36, and Brandon had a share of injuries. You rarely see guys play that long, so you got to be careful. And then you've got the Michael Parsons contract that should average $40 million plus a season. Well, if I'm T.J. Watt, I want to see what that deal looks like. Not that he's going to get $40 million a season, but you want to see how close you can get. You want to see the structure. And the Steelers, look, because if you trade T.J. Watt, I know now they love Nick Herbig, Nate's younger brother, but that's not a reason to make a trade. You want to keep him. You want Watt, who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer or close to it, like his brother. You want to be careful, because you don't want to get worse. When you're going for it, Mike, that's why I don't see it happening. I don't rule it out. Until you get a deal done, you don't have a deal done. And I've told you about this over the years when I talked to the Raiders when they swore to me they were not going to trade Khalil Mack. And John Gruden got concerned that Mack wouldn't show up. Well, he was wrong, by the way. Mack actually went on the record, said he never thought of missing the start of the season with the Raiders. Gruden got worried, and he traded him to the Bears. So you never say never with these things. We've seen a lot of the Steelers, by the way, before we move on here. This is an old-school team that usually does not get very involved in the trade market or in free agency. That has now changed with DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Rodgers. And now, Andy Waddle, I know he doesn't have personnel control. He's the assistant general manager. Just to remember where he came from Philly. Omar Khan is the general manager. He makes all the decisions, but you wonder what kind of influence Andy could have on his close friend Omar Khan. I'm just bringing that up because it's just fascinating. They've never been like this before. The Steelers never get involved like this, but now they are.
By the way, Adam Caplan's with us here, Football at 4. Last time the Dolphins won a playoff game, it was the year 2000. The head coach
Are you serious?
was Jay Feely. Fiedler.
I thought you were going to say Doug Peterson. I was going to
Jay Fiedler. Sorry.
Jay Fiedler. Yes. From where did he go to Cornell? Maybe that sound right?
You have a cup of coffee with the Eagles, Jay Fiedler.
Well, no, there was. Or did he go to Hofstra? I can't remember where Jay Fiedler went. But yeah. Wow, that's crazy, man.
Dartmouth. He went to Dartmouth.
Dartmouth. Okay, Ivy League.
Yes, Ivy League is correct.
They won a playoff game. What's that?
Yeah, Ivy League. And by the way, he did have a cup of coffee with the Eagles in 1995.
Yeah, I was going to say, might have been at the end of the Rich Kotite era. In fact, maybe that's why. You see, Rich Kotite, if you remember, and he was terrible for the Jets. What were they, 1-15? He brought in a number of former Eagles, and it unfortunately didn't work out well. But, yeah, I just wanted to talk about this Steelers trade because when we see what's going on in the NBA, and I heard your segment earlier talking Sixers, and obviously NBA free agency is wild. But it is very rare that we see a trade of this magnitude in June. At the end of June, of course, it was cool. I mean, it was good to see that, and I'm just kind of fascinated because the Steelers this is not what they do. But you know what? You got to shake it up sometimes. Good for them.
All right, I do want to get into this. I did listen to the Pablo Torre. I'm halfway through with Mike Florio, about 75% through. I was listening to it the other day, and so this whole thing with the collusion and the arbitrators in regard to veteran contracts here. Do we ever see that happening? We've seen these teams some sort of circumvent it with, all sorts of different ways, but that whole podcast is fascinating, number one. If you haven't heard it yet, the Pablo Torre, Mike Florio conversation on the collusion situation. I'm up right around the point where they're talking about the new player rep when JT Treader got, basically cut and then his new role. So that's about where I'm at here. Do you ever think we'll see these guaranteed contracts in the NFL?
No, I don't. Now, all right, I'm going to go. You said something in passing. Let me kind of extrapolate and explain and take it a little farther. So we've seen one, and that's the whole part of this alleged collusion, where Strolling suggested that teams don't do anything like this in the NFL's Management Council, which has to approve every NFL contract. The terms are sent in, the structure, and there's a certain way contracts have to be done, and they sometimes don't get passed until the language is adjusted. But so what happened was, Mike, and Pablo Torre and Mike Florio talk about it, but Pablo got hold of the arbitrator's ruling, which is 61 pages, where it says, quote, there is little question that the NFL Management Council, with the blessing of the commissioner, encouraged 32 clubs to reduce guarantees in their veteran contracts at the 22 annual owners' meetings. Well, guess what? I was there at Palm Beach, and I'll never forget this, Mike. So I ran into a bunch of contract negotiators that were there and general managers, and so many teams were upset with the Browns. I'm not going to use the language that they used, but they were super mad. Like, how could you do a contract like this specifically for a guy who had allegations against him off the field, pretty serious, not charged anything with Deshaun Watson, but when you do a contract like this, you do it with a guy with questionable character, and you're also going against the way things are being done, which honestly, Mike, players deserve it. Now, I'm not saying Deshaun Watson did. He didn't, by the way. The last good season he had was in 2020. So it wasn't like he was coming off a good year. But when you really look at it, Kirk Cousins had the 3 years fully guaranteed when he went to Minnesota, coming over from Washington. But the reason why I don't think it'll happen, Mike, and the NFLPA did not push even remotely hard enough in 2020. They seem to cave on that stuff. They always pick what they want. Light off season. They don't want to be bothered by coaches when they're in the building before when they're working out in February and March. They don't want to be told what to do until May, whatever the case may be for OTAs. They just never really push for fully guaranteed money, and owners are not. I just don't think it'll ever happen. I remember in 11 it was brought up briefly, wasn't even close. 2020 a little bit stronger. Nope, not even close. Now we've had one deal. Now what you're seeing now is, Mike, and I'll give you a little bit before I move on here. You're seeing a bunch of 3 years fully guaranteed at signing. If they're called an advance guarantee, if they're on the roster in year 3. In March, year 4 is guaranteed, but they have to be on the roster then to get the next year fully guaranteed. Now, the other thing is, and Mike talks about this, Florio, and this has been a pet peeve of mine. It's called the NFL's funding rule. Almost like 90% of fully guaranteed money at signing, Mike, has to be put in a separate account, an escrow account, because it's based on 40 or 50 years going back when clubs weren't very cash rich as they are now, and there was a worry from the NFLPA that some of these clubs could run out of money. Trust me on this, Mike, that ain't happening anymore, that will never happen. Look, you saw when Leonard Tost almost moved the Eagles to Phoenix.
Yeah, I remember that.
1984. Mike, I'm telling you, like, that was pretty real. That was a real story. Leonard Tost, as you might remember, lost a lot of money. And that's not happening anymore. And that rule's got to be taken out of place. So that's another part of this. I'm glad you brought this up because this is not like the NBA with these fully guaranteed contracts for 5-6 years. And baseball's insanity with 10, 11, 12 fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
That ain't happening in the NFL, man. And less physical sports, obviously.
And a lot of people wonder, if you want to listen to the podcast with Florio and Pablo Torre, go check it out on all podcasting platforms. But why hasn't this collusion thing been talked about more? It's been one of the...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Mike, I'm talking about it with you. I talked about it on Fox. I work for Fox Sports Radio on the weekends. I do a couple segments with them on Saturday and Sunday. We talked about it. I talked with Kerry Rhodes, who I've known from Fox Sports Radio for a number of years. It's a real thing. It's terrible that the NFLPA didn't get it out there. They should have put a statement out. Now, they may be embarrassed by the ruling, but how do you not get that out there? I can't figure that out. I mean, I know they're not happy about it, but so what? Say they're not happy with the ruling, and they're going to fight like hell for it. Now, the CBA is not up till March of 2031, so you've got 5 years. But this is just ridiculous, Mike, that they didn't want that out. Mike's right. Florida's right. I'm stunned by it, to be honest with you.
Well, Adam Caplan, a Football at 4 in the books, which gets us another day closer to Eagles training camp. They report 3 weeks from today.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. And, by the way, when the Browns come in for 2 practices, which they've done before. They did it 2 years ago here.
Yes, we will be all over that, of course. And the guys over at the Inside the Birds podcast, you can check out all of their coverage over at InsideTheBirds.com and wherever you get your podcasts. Adam, good stuff, man.
Thank you.